Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Corner. Welcome to Art Regner's video blog for FoxSportsDetroit.com. I know it's been a couple of days. Yesterday, however, when you have raw sewage backing up in your basement, you have to take care of that, and finding a plumber on St. Patrick's Day was a bit of a nightmare. But back today, and we are talking about something I really wanted to address a couple of days ago, but unforeseen problems in the basement occurred. A kind of a nightmare scenario is everyone now is asking me about Pavel Datsyuk and about him going to Russia and him hating Mike Babcock and him being afraid to play in the Eastern Conference. There was a blog, I believe it was on Friday or Thursday of last week, where former retired Red Wing who knows somebody's family or plays with this guy at a rink or, one of those stories. And, it kind of cracked me up. Number one, Pavel Datsyuk is not afraid to play in the Eastern Conference. He's not afraid of anybody. Period. I mean, I think that's actually ludicrous to even believe that Pavel Datsyuk, if you play with fear, you're going to get hurt. So that is a bunch of bunk. It's total you-know-what. As far as Mike Babcock goes, I have said this many, many times. I am sure that Mike Babcock is not on many Christmas card lists of Red Wing players, former, current, and in the future. Mike Babcock is a pretty abrasive guy. At times he can be arrogant, and I think at times some of the Red Wing players believe that he borders on being unprofessional as far as the way that he interacts with them. I think, though, that over the years, much like Scotty Bowman did when he was in Detroit, that Mike Babcock has somewhat mellowed and realizes the situation, especially now with the Red Wings being a team in transition. So I think there is probably some validity to that. I think if you were to talk to Pavel Datsyuk about it, he could probably say that there are at times that Mike Babcock gets on his nerves. So, but then again, if you take a poll of NHL players, I'm not so sure many of them are buddy-buddy with their coach. I think the player-coach relationship is adversarial to begin with, so could that be a factor? I'm not saying that it couldn't be a factor, but I don't believe that that is the main factor that Pavel Datsyuk may play out his contract at the end of next season, that's the 2013-14 season, and go back home to Russia. Certainly he liked playing in the KHL during this most recent lockout. I don't know if he has trouble with English, but he's uncomfortable with English. It's not his first language. And I believe that certainly that much like a guy named Nick, eventually his plans were to go home, even though Nick's not playing in the Swedish Elite League right now. But I do think that Pavel was a guy who was slated and not to stay in the United States, but to return to his home country. Now, I know there's another kind of factor that people are talking about Pavel Datsyuk, in that he hasn't been that gregarious Datsyuk that we have seen, joking around, and that this has been a real strain on him this season. Number one, I think this past weekend proves that he does enjoy playing here. His interview with Trevor Thompson on Fox Sports Detroit after he scored the game-winning goal against the Edmonton Oilers in overtime on Friday was playful. He was joking around. He was the same Datsyuk. I think that at times when a player is not going well, and let's face it, he went an eternity without scoring a goal, that I think that, what are they going to say? And I think that Pavel Datsyuk is a bit withdrawn. But if you really want to look at what's going on with Pavel Datsyuk and you're a Red Wing fan, I would say, should you be concerned that he wants to go back to Russia? I guess so. I mean, he is their best player. I understand that, and it does seem like his idol here in the United States when he came to the Red Wings, Igor Larionov, was able to have quite a good career into his late 30s. So I understand where Red Wing fans are coming from, but I look at it this way. What Pavel Datsyuk wants to do, go back home and play in the KHL, is really no different than what Brad Stewart did last year by wanting to go home and be with his family in San Jose. Now, granted, Brad Stewart's a fine player. He's not in the class of Pavel Datsyuk, obviously, in different positions and all that. And he is playing in the NHL. But the fact is he's not playing for the Red Wings. So that's the way I look at this. I mean, Datsyuk is probably figuring, hey, I am relatively healthy. I know that the Eastern Conference, quote unquote, all the concussions, and the guys, this blog lists all the guys that had concussions in the Eastern Conference. Well, hey, all right, whether it's a tougher conference, a different brand of hockey or not, that really has no effect on Pavel Datsyuk. What does have an effect on him is he misses being home. He wants to go home. Every offseason he goes home. He goes back to Russia. So if Pavel Datsyuk plays out the string and honors his contract, much like Brad Stewart did, and is open and honest with the Red Wings, and sure, they're going to try to keep him, but if he wants to leave, then let him go home and thank him for wearing the red and white for as many years and performing at the highest level that a hockey player can play at. So that's my take on that. I mean, people have been, oh, is Datsyuk leaving? Is Datsyuk afraid? Is Datsyuk this, Datsyuk this? No, you know what? Datsyuk wants to go home. That's all. Like Brad Stewart wanted to go home and be with his family. Like many players want to go home. You know, after a while, I mean, Nick's been going to Sweden all the time in the off season. You know, there comes a point where we in North America have to realize a lot of these guys aren't from here. And as much as we like Canada or the United States or living here, their roots are someplace else. So you have to respect that. So if Pavel Datsyuk leaves, Pavel, I salute you. I'm not going to sit there and worry about it because the reason is he just wants to go home. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Art Regner's video blog. Until we meet again, which will be NCAA tournament, Michigan a 4th seed. Don't get that. Michigan State, and is the West even a region this year? We'll get into that and so much more. But have a safe and pleasant one. We'll see you. Bye-bye.